All right. So now moving to the writing process. So we have writer-based writing and then reader-based writing.
Right.
Starting with the writer-based writing, we have some steps or.
They're not steps.
Yeah.
They're not steps.
Yeah.
They're elements.
Okay. Yeah, because it's like there's no linear.
Yeah, there's no linear movement in writing. Writing is confusing, messy.
Chaotic.
That's why everybody hates it, right? It's recursive, it's reiterative.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no steps, but there's elements in the process.
Good.
And that's what I try to instill in my framework, that these are the elements that we want to address, because if a paper is going to go wrong, if a paper doesn't work, it's because somebody didn't pay attention to some of these elements.
Okay.
Right? Let's say audience
Right.
is one of the elements of the situation that you're writing into.
Yes.
Okay, so if you just say, don't worry about the audience, and then we're in this place again where you're writing a paper to who knows who, and the people who are reading it, who should be your audience, are going, what? Who is this? That's not how we talk about that. You know, why are they saying this? You know, why are they saying it that way? Because the audience would be people who are experts in the area, who would be like, you know, that's not how we talk about it. That's not how we organize our ideas.
Yes.
We don't even talk about this topic. That kind of thing. So it's really important that audience is one of the elements that you think about when you're writing. In terms of writing process, some of the things you have to think about. You have to plan.
Yeah.
And if you don't plan, then what's going to happen is you're going to be probably not sleep for 3 or 4 nights before the due date. Right? Because you didn't plan well. And so suddenly you're 3 days away from the due date and you have 1 million words to write, and you are feeling like you need to throw out everything you've already written because it's not right. It's not right.
Well, could you change the context to a examination, as I told you before?
That's harder because it's like I say, you're going in there and it's like you're not really sure exactly what they're going to ask. And so it's really, I'm sure that is a nerve-wracking situation.
I know, it is.
I think that probably the best advice I could say to anybody who goes into that is, go in there with the idea that if they ask a question, there's going to be some things that you know that you need to kind of like relax, sit back and go, what do I know that would help me address the prompt, right? Maybe I can't answer it in the way that I would like because I don't have the books in front of me. I do remember we talked about that, but I can't really remember everything about it. But I remember this was related to that, and so maybe I'll start with that and work my way into the prompt or something like that. I find those very nerve-wracking experiences.
But people still manage to do them. So
Well, some people, like in Ireland, that's a very common kind of thing, and there's a lot of people who memorize lots of information, and then they go in there and they just regurgitate it. I don't know if that's. I don't know. That doesn't say much about what I learned. It only says what I've memorized. You certainly, it's difficult to be critical when all you're doing is just trying to spend all your time in your cerebral cortex. Instead of like really thinking things through. You know?
But that's why it's not always like, or let's say 100% about the content. Sometimes or most of the time it's 50% for the content and 50% for the writing, the form, etc. So sometimes people can, like, you can trick them, you know? You just put what you know, but you are very good at writing. But
so you want to make it so that they recognize that you are a member of this community.
This is exactly what they want.
That you studied.
This is what they want from you.
And the only way that can happen is by actually being a member of the community and actually engaging in the conversations that people in your field are having. And the only way you can do that is by, when you think about how the professionals do it, they see a problem, they go into the books and into the journals and they try, what have people done about it so far? And then they go and they do some studies and then they report on what they found and then they publish it. And then somebody behind them and says, oh, I read that study. I really didn't like that method that they used. I think that they're probably not getting the results that they should have got. So I'm going to replicate that study, but I'm going to do something slightly different here.
Yeah.
And I think my results are more valid. And so now you have this contest and this conversation going on in journals over a year, over years, over months and years and so forth. And those are conversations. And if you can spend time in journals and just reading and looking at the follow-up studies and the studies that preceded the study you're looking at, you can actually see how they're talking to each other.
Exactly.
And if you can do that in a paper, where you're talking to the teacher and also to that audience that talks about these things, then that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, you can do good scholarly work, you are reasonable, you reason well, you're critical in your approach. In other words, you recognize that nothing is always 100%. Everything should be kind of like looked at with a kind of like one eye open and one eye closed. It's like, I don't know about that. You have to be somewhat suspicious and skeptical, but you're also fair. All those things that we expect.
But also your voice should be there.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, yeah. And there's all kinds of ways to do that without saying I think, I believe, and all those kinds of things. Those reporting verbs, or using phrases like of course or naturally. Naturally says the writer thinks this is natural. Without saying, I think it's natural.
Yeah.
Right? So you've actually positioned yourself by using adverbs and adjectives and things like that really kind of indicate that this is how you value it. Yeah. Right? And so it's tricky, and it's strategic.
Yeah.
And you can do all those things and you get a good grade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you can.